Today I'm going to be doing a breakdown of a film I recently made called Together. It's about two brothers who ran across Kangaroo Island, which is an island here in South Australia. It was a 160-kilometre long run. So much of what I enjoy watching on YouTube are film breakdowns. You know, seeing how other filmmakers and creatives shot their film, the sort of decisions, the creative decisions they made along the way, and even going into the edit and seeing, how they began to structure it and the sound. And there's just so many elements, so I thought, why not make something similar for this? So I'm really good friends with Angus and Jackson, the two brothers who did the run. And I know when they came to me early in the year about this project, I was on board straight away. Initially, it was going to be quite a smaller video. I'd shot Jackson's, one of the brothers, 100K run a couple of years ago, and we just made like a 4 or 5 minute little montage, and we thought, yeah, we'll just make something similar, And then sort of as time went on, it sort of grew, and but there's quite a bit of story here, and especially once we'd shot it, we're like, okay, there's definitely enough for something a bit longer. It's been about a 10-month, I guess, whole process from inception, the idea to actually premiering it and putting it out in the world. So it's been really rewarding to work on it for that long, and especially we're lucky enough to do a big premiere event for the film, which we did a couple of weeks ago, which was super special. We hired out a cinema and put on this really beautiful night and did kind of a Q&A at the end, and just really amazing to have everyone in the room. So much of, I guess, this industry with the work I do is, you make something and it's just on your screen, and then you put it out in the world on the internet, and you get some comments and stuff, and that's great. But to have people in the room with you and watching it and reacting and laughing and crying, and it's so much more rewarding. So I thought I'd start with shooting the film, and I guess sort of pre-production, but as you'll come to see, there wasn't heaps of pre-production with this. I had my really great friends Justin and Ash come along to help me put this whole thing together. So I had Justin come along to shoot video with me, and Ash came to kind of help shoot photos and also sort of produce, and I guess just be another sort of hands-on set to help out. I didn't give too much direction to Justin or even really thought about it myself of how I wanted this shot specifically, but I knew I wanted it to be really grounded. So there's even some shots later on, there's like this sequence where they're running in the rain, and we're walking alongside them, and it's shaky and it's with them, and I even got some stuff from the car, and you see the windscreen going, because I just think kind of shows, oh man, they are out there in the rain, and you almost feel like you're in the car in the comfort, like feeling bad for them sort of thing. So I think given the nature of this shoot, having it be over what ended up being almost 24 hours of straight shooting, the goal was just coverage. It was make sure we get key events, obviously the start and the end are the key ones, but there's, on a big run like this, they do heaps of stops in between, and they'll eat and they'll drink and they'll recover, and they're only 5-10 minute stops, but they're stops nonetheless. So it's important for me to get a lot of audio in those moments, because we did do interviews before and after to get a lot of context going into the run, and then post run to sort of talk about how it all went, so that we can then chop those in as it's happening, and we can kind of talk about those events as they unfold. But it was really important to me to get them talking during. So I think Justin and I did a really good job. We had camera each. We actually had 3 cameras in total, and we would just kind of grab and pick what we need per the thing, keep a lens on there, and okay, we need that one for that, let's do that. So that's ultimately more powerful. Like, these interviews are great and they provide a lot, but I think if you can get them talking about how they're feeling in the moment, like Jacko early on had his Achilles flare up, like really early in the run, and it's important for me to get sort of context about that along the way, because it's all, it's fine for him to talk about it after, but you get him talking while he's running, and he's like, my Achilles hurts and I don't know if I'll be able to do this. I think that's always going to be more powerful. So throughout the night was obviously tricky to shoot. It's quite dark, especially when you're out in the middle of this island on this highway that has no lights or anything like that. It's pitch black. They had their head torches on, which I guess helped give some context for sure. But I think just really using the darkness to the strength of the story. Like, they're out there in the dark. They can only see as much as the camera, really. They've got their head torches, but all they're seeing is the sort of 2 meters of ground in front of them, and that's it. So I really wanted to use that and almost make it feel like, geez, it's just them on this highway. And when I got to the end, it was, again, just about coverage. With these sort of shoots, when it's this sort of adventure, you can't get in the way of anything, especially not the end, because that's a really special moment for everyone. They're there, they want to be fully present. You don't want to, can we just get, you want to just get what you can get and be there and hope for the best. So the tricky part was too is, between myself, Justin, and Ash, we were all we needed to shoot, video for the film, photos, and then Ash was also doing the social media along the way. So she was on social media shooting that at the end. I think I got on photos and was shooting the sort of end photos, and then Justin was on video. So it would have been nice to be able to get coverage of two on video, but we did the best we could, and I think Justin nailed it, getting some really beautiful stuff at the end, and the sort of closing frame, which I'll get into why I chose that after, but the closing frame of them hugging and then it cuts, and I just think that was a beautiful way to end. I think when starting the edit, I really took a lot of time to look through everything and figure out exactly what my story was. With this film, there was quite a few angles I could have taken in regards to the actual specific story I wanted to tell. We had, the fact that they're running together as brothers. We had the fact that they're going for an FKT, a fastest known time, across the island. There was reasons they picked Kangaroo Island in the first place, because Kangaroo Island had a bunch of bushfires and stuff a couple of years ago. This whole thing they did for canteen for charity, so that was another aspect. There was all these sort of story beats that we could have focused on, but I don't know, to me, especially after looking through all the footage and sort of going through in my head what I found the most, or what I found to be the emotional center of it all, was the fact that they're two brothers that are doing the run together. 'Cause I haven't seen that much. I think that's quite a special thing. So for me, that was always, after looking through it all, it was like, right, the story for me is that they're running together. That's ultimately the bottom line, and there's a lot of lines actually in there that, both of them say about doing it together, and that's what they wanted this run to stand for, and all these sort of things. So I just thought, what, I think that's the most fitting title I could come up with. So the way I guess I approached the start of the edit was really looking through all the interview stuff, seeing what really fit that storyline, and I guess sort of building the structure from there. I didn't have a set, time I wanted the film to be from the start. It was more so, all right, see what we've got in there, see how long it sort of naturally goes for. And from sort of early on, it was around that 20-minute mark. And that felt good, for a story that's only sort of a day long. I thought that feels pretty good. So I stuck with that sort of time. So looking into the edit now, this is the timeline. We had the 4 different interviews. So we had the 2, one each before the run and then 1 each after. And I wasn't too picky. There's parts from the interviews we got before that I used during and vice versa, and I kind of just mix it around, and the audio sounds the same. So that was really nice to be able to mix and match and use parts from all of the interviews whenever I sort of needed it to tell the part of the story I was trying to tell. I knew I wanted to open with sort of a a little cold open, sort of. I wanted to kind of create the vibe and get the main point of the story across. So, the part of the audio of Angus saying, people have asked what happens if one of us can't do it, and he said, well, we do it together or we don't do it. So that sort of, really sums up to me what the story is and how important it is that they're together and they're brothers and they're doing it together. So I thought that was a really nice way to open and sort of get people on board with, okay, cool, I get what this story's about. And, starting with the rain and showing that they're out there in the middle of the night in the rain, I thought was just a bit of a dramatic way of going, fuck, all right, we're on. This is going to be a bit of a story. So it's obviously important when getting to the start of the edit, giving some context about what happens. That was the goal straight away, was, all right, get people on board. I think, how long did the sort of whole intro sequence, I guess, before the actual run starts is 3.5 minutes. So that was about as far as I wanted to go. I think any longer, in a 20-minute film, you start to drag a little bit. And obviously the main story is the run. So I wanted to just sort of keep that condensed and still get everything you need in there across, but, not drag it out. I think my focus when it comes to pretty much any editing, but especially with a film that's going to be 20 minutes long, is the pacing. I think the pacing is probably the most important part of any edit, because it's the difference between keeping an audience engaged with your film and not, in my opinion. So I think for me, it was just kind of going through intuitively with how long I think each sort of part should linger. And, there's certain parts in here that I decided to really sort of push a little bit, like this sort of section in here when they've arrived at this little aid station. I thought it was a really nice point in the story. It's sort of 7.5, 8 minutes in, and I think it was a nice moment to just sort of, what are they? So they've just run a marathon. So I thought it was a really nice sort of section to like sit with them for a minute, just sort of hear them chatting. There's no interview dialogue, there's nothing like that. It's just Jacko talking a little bit about his Achilles, and then just a few nice moments of Angus massaging Jacko and that sort of thing. So I didn't want to use music in this film too much. There's quite a bit in there, but I also wanted, pockets and sections without it so that you can sort of breathe and sit with them and that sort of thing. But I think using it to sort of emphasize the emotions that were in play. For example, this section when Jacko's talking about his Achilles and Angus is talking about how it's kind of a good thing almost because it slowed him down, and it's just a bit of a heavier topic. So I just put in some really subtle sort of track in there to sort of build that up. And all the music I used was from Epidemic Sound. And what I really like about that is being able to download the sort of the stems of the songs. So a lot of the songs in here, I didn't just use the track. I sort of pulled different sections, and it meant that I was able to use, like, for example, just the bass of a track as sort of a really nice, undercurrent under a section, then bring in the whole rest of the track. I just think that helped to sort of build out the story more rather than just like track and then it ends, or track and then it ends, that sort of thing. I wanted to sort of make it feel like it was scored by, a specific person, which meant I also decided to use, I think, only 2 artists. So that way it sort of felt, I guess, coherent, and it felt like one sort of big soundtrack. And it was very like, I think it was the one artist for most of the day stuff. So the whole first part and then the end, and then throughout the night star phase sort of shifted to something a bit more, there's a synthy, I guess, is in there, which, I don't know, just felt like a bit more of a nighttime vibe. So going into the start of the night sequence, I really wanted to sit with them without music for a while, just to sort of settle in and, all right, it's night now. And I also wanted to hold the shots for a lot longer. Firstly, a little kind of practically almost, because shooting throughout the day, there's so many different dynamics to shoot. You've got different backdrops all the time, and there's just more to look at. So you just find yourself shooting more. But throughout the night, obviously there would be, but you can't see anything different. It all just looks pretty similar. So I just found we just shot less throughout the night. That also, I think, serves the purpose of showing that they're just running on a long highway. Like this sort of opening shot, for example, where they're next to each other and they're just running, you can just, I don't know, in my head, you can just imagine, oh man, they are just out there and they're just going to be running for a long, long time. So, and this rain section, similar, I guess, to the start of the night section, I really just wanted to sit with these guys in the rain for a while. So there's at least a 2-minute sequence, maybe even 3 minutes, where they're just running and it is just raining, and that's all you hear is the rain, and you just see them running, and that's it. And I didn't want to give the audience the relief of them talking about through the interview section, talking about anything, or music where it sort of feels a bit more like a film. I just wanted the audience to be watching it and just think, God, they are still in the rain. It is still going. Like, I hate that for them. That was sort of the goal. So this is probably my favorite shot I got throughout the whole shoot, really, was this sort of shot of Angus walking up this hill, and there's this water dripping, and it was just this most beautiful, like, rich blue hour behind him in the morning, because it was obviously raining, there was no sunrise. And there's even like the little like rain sprinkle on here, like bang, hits the top of his torch there. So I love this shot, and it's sort of him talking about, we've got a shower in the van, there's a warm bed there, there's all these things, but we've got work to do, we've got to keep going. When we interviewed Angus after the run, there was this whole section where he cried about talking about Jacko and how special their bond is, and secretly as I was filming, I was like, yes, this is great. I've got this sort of this crying moment, this emotional moment, and it's obviously about the emotional core of the film. It was perfect, and I really just wanted to highlight that and sit with that, and used a bit of music, but really subtle, just to sort of hopefully bring out those emotions a bit more. And afterwards, he talks about, again, this sort of idea of being together, and that's when he wants that, this run and the Bruce brothers to stand for. And I think that was a perfect sort of recap, I guess, of the whole film and what it's all about. This is one of the 2 drone shots I used throughout the whole film. So we had this to sort of show the second lighthouse, and then we had one towards the start. This shot here towards the start to sort of show the first lighthouse. I just thought we did get a few more drone shots throughout the day, but I don't know, to me, as I said before, I wanted to keep it grounded, but still using those as sort of pillars of, the whole run is cape to cape, so showing the first cape to the last cape. I thought that was a good way to use those shots. This little montage here, right towards the end where they're about to touch the lighthouse, was a bit of a late addition too. I just thought that could be a really nice way to, I don't know, I guess recap the whole event, the whole run for them, and the whole film. So sort of right as Jacko's talked about, you know, he's looking forward to chatting with the crew and the moments after with how cool that was and how epic of an adventure that was. I just thought it'd be really nice to recap some of the core moments throughout the film and throughout the day, and I guess lead into, you know, the big finish. So as I said before, we only had one camera covering the end, so this is Justin just sort of following them up the stairs and eventually touching the lighthouse. And I really just wanted to keep this final sort of section as one just clip, one long continuous clip, unbroken, and just shows their bond. You know, they touch the lighthouse, they're both crying, there's rain on them, there's water, it's, you know, it's cold, but they finish and they bring it in. And initially I had probably about an additional 20 seconds of everyone hugging. So, you know, the boys went over and hugged their mum, and Jacko hugged his girlfriend Claudia, and then the final shot was going to be the two boys hugging their coach. And again, very, very late decision, but sort of, yeah, a day or two before the premiere, I just thought, you know what, I find myself wanting to skip that last part, you know, because I know it's done and I want to get to the end. So I think I should just pull it right back. And as I'm looking through it, this frame I thought was really beautiful to me, that, you know, that sort of encapsulates them together, and the whole story is about them together. So it was kind of a no-brainer. All right, end it on them. In terms of sound, probably most of the sound throughout, you know, obviously apart from the clips where they're talking, was sound design. I found, I don't know, the audio was just a bit hard to manage with, like, there was a lot of cars going past on the highways and, you know, just a lot happening. And so I found it a lot easier to just sort of recreate that sound after the fact. And the color grading, I wanted to keep really simple. I wanted to keep it quite subtle. We shot all of this film on Justin's Blackmagics. It had 2 4Ks and an Ursa, so they produce really beautiful colors anyway. And I just sort of did a really subtle grade on them, just to, I don't know. Again, I didn't want to distract from the story. You know, I wanted to keep this one quite grounded and quite subtle and nothing too crazy. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting on it, and to everyone who came to the premiere. That was, I'm very, very grateful for that. That was a very, very special night that I will not forget. But that's all for me, so thanks for watching.